I stood in the hospital parking lot, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles had gone white. Through the rain-streaked windshield, I watched my husband Marcus walk through the automatic doors of Mercy General Hospital for the third night in a row. He was carrying flowers, yellow roses, his mother's favorite, he'd told me. But here's the thing about lies. They only work when you don't know the truth. And I knew the truth. I'd known it for exactly 4 hours now. Ever since I called Marcus's mother's retirement home in Florida this afternoon to ask how she was doing after her supposed stroke. Stroke? The nurse had said, confused. Mrs. Joanna? Honey, she's fine. She's in the sunroom right now, playing bridge with her friends. Hasn't been sick a day this month. My stomach had dropped so fast I'd nearly thrown up right there in my kitchen. Marcus had been rushing to the hospital every night for 2 weeks, telling me his mother was dying, that she'd had a severe stroke and the doctors weren't sure she'd make it. He'd cry on the phone, his voice breaking as he told me about sitting by her bedside, holding her hand, praying for one more day. I'd held him when he came home at 2 a.m., exhausted and red-eyed. I'd made him soup. I'd told him to take all the time he needed. I'd been such a fool. So tonight, instead of staying home like the trusting wife I'd been for 8 years, I'd followed him. And now I sat in this parking lot, watching the hospital entrance, waiting to see what or who my husband was really visiting. Before I continue, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love hearing from you. And if this story resonates with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let me tell you how I got here. How the perfect marriage I thought I had turned into the biggest lie of my life. Marcus and I met in college. He was the charming business major who could talk his way into anything, and I was the quiet accounting student who actually knew how to balance a budget. We were opposites, but it worked. He had the personality, I had the brains. Together, we were unstoppable. We got married right after graduation. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. We couldn't afford much back then, but we didn't care. We had each other, and we had dreams. I got a job as a financial analyst at a consulting firm. Marcus bounced between sales jobs, always chasing the next big commission. The money wasn't great at first, but we managed. We scraped together enough for a down payment on a small house in the suburbs. We talked about having kids someday, when we were more stable. Then, 3 years ago, everything changed. My grandmother died and left me her entire estate, $850,000. It was a shock. We'd never had real money before, and suddenly we had almost $1 million. Marcus wanted to invest it in his friend's startup. I wanted to be smart, to save it, to use it for our future. We compromised, we paid off the house, put $200,000 in retirement accounts, and kept the rest in savings for emergencies and opportunities. That money gave us security. It gave us options. It gave Marcus something else, the belief that he could stop working so hard because we had a safety net. Over the next 3 years, I watched my husband change. He quit his sales job and started consulting, which meant he worked from home on projects that never seemed to pan out. He'd spend hours on the phone with potential clients who never materialized. He'd attend networking events that led nowhere. I kept working. I got promoted to senior analyst, then to manager. My salary doubled. I was bringing in $120,000 a year, while Marcus brought in maybe $15,000 from his sporadic consulting gigs. I didn't mind being the breadwinner. What bothered me was that Marcus stopped trying. He'd sleep until 10 a.m. He'd play video games in the afternoon. When I'd come home from a 12-hour day, exhausted, he'd ask what was for dinner. But I told myself it was temporary, that he was going through something, that marriage meant supporting each other through the hard times. I loved him. I believed in him. I trusted him. Looking back now, I see all the signs I ignored. The late-night phone calls he'd take in another room, the new cologne he started wearing, the gym membership he suddenly got, even though he'd never cared about fitness before, the way he'd angle his phone away from me when he was texting. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was stressed from work and imagining things, that Marcus would never betray me. 2 weeks ago, everything started to unravel. Marcus got a call during dinner. His face went white as he listened. When he hung up, he looked at me with tears in his eyes. "It's Mom," he said, his voice shaking. "She's had a stroke. The doctors, they don't know if she's going to make it." I dropped my fork. "Oh my God, "Do you need to fly down there?" "She's at Mercy General," he said. "They transferred her here this morning because she was visiting her sister in the area. She wanted to surprise us." I felt terrible that I hadn't known his mother was even in town. "I'll come with you," I said, standing up. "Let me just grab my purse." "No!" He grabbed my hand. "The doctor said only immediate family because she's in the ICU. And you know how Mom is, she wouldn't want you to see her like this. She's so proud." It made sense. Marcus's mother had always been a strong, independent woman. I could imagine her not wanting anyone to see her vulnerable. "Okay," I said, "but call me if anything changes. I'll be here if you need me." He kissed my forehead. "You're amazing. I don't deserve you." That night, he came home at 3 a.m. The next night, even later. Every evening, he'd leave right after dinner, claiming he needed to be with his mother. He'd send me text updates, still the same. "Doctors are cautiously optimistic. She squeezed my hand today." I sent flowers to the ICU. I called the hospital to ask about visitor policies. I baked cookies to bring for the nurses taking care of his mother. And then this afternoon, on a whim, I decided to call the retirement home in Florida just to let them know what was happening. That's when I found out there was no stroke, no hospitalization. His mother was fine, playing bridge in the sunroom, completely healthy. My husband had been lying to me for 2 weeks straight, using his mother's fake illness as an excuse to go somewhere every night, to do something, to see someone. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. I'd sat down on the kitchen floor and just stared at the wall for 20 minutes, my mind racing. Where was he going? Who was he with? How long had this been going on? And then, cold clarity washed over me. I knew exactly what I had to do. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed to know the truth, no matter how much it would hurt. So tonight, I followed him. I waited in the hospital parking lot for 30 minutes, watching people come and go, visitors leaving after evening visiting hours, nurses arriving for the night shift. None of it mattered. I only cared about one person. Finally, I couldn't wait any longer. I got out of my car and walked toward the entrance, keeping my head down. Inside, the hospital was quiet, the evening lull before the overnight chaos. I approached the information desk. "Excuse me," I said to the volunteer, an elderly woman with kind eyes. "I'm looking for a patient." "Joanna Steele?" She typed into her computer, then frowned. "I'm sorry, dear. We don't have anyone by that name registered." Of course not. Because Joanna Steele was in Florida, perfectly healthy. "What about recently discharged patients?" I asked. "In the last week or so?" "I'm sorry. I can only give information to family members." She looked at me sympathetically. "Is there someone else I can help you find?" I shook my head and walked away from the desk, my heart pounding. If Marcus wasn't visiting his mother, where was he in this hospital? I rode the elevator to the second floor, the floor he'd mentioned once when describing his mother's ICU room. I walked through the corridors slowly, looking into waiting rooms and visitor areas. Nothing. No sign of Marcus. I tried the third floor, then the fourth. My feet were starting to hurt, and doubt was creeping in. Maybe he'd already left through a different exit. Maybe I'd missed him. And then, on the fifth floor, I saw him. He was standing outside a patient room, talking to a woman. She was young, maybe 28, my age, with long dark hair and a hospital gown. She was crying, and Marcus had his arms around her, holding her close, stroking her hair. I stepped back into the elevator alcove, my whole body trembling. I took out my phone and started recording. Through the video screen, I watched my husband kiss this woman on the forehead, then the lips. I watched him wipe her tears and say something that made her smile. I watched him pull a small gift bag from his pocket, the same kind of bag he'd told me contained magazines for his mother, and hand it to her. She opened it and pulled out a delicate silver bracelet. She threw her arms around his neck. I recorded it all. Every second, every touch, every kiss. Then a nurse approached them, and Marcus stepped back. The woman went into her room, and Marcus walked toward the elevators, the opposite elevators, not the ones where I was hiding. I waited until he was gone, then approached the nurse's station. "Excuse me," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "The patient in room 512, is she okay? I saw her in the hallway earlier and she looked upset." The nurse glanced at the board. Oh, Simone? She's doing better. The pregnancy has been rough, but the baby's heartbeat is strong now. She was worried about preterm labor, but we've got it under control. Pregnancy. The word echoed in my head. Baby. I thanked the nurse and walked back to the elevator in a daze. My husband's mistress was pregnant. He'd been visiting her every night, bringing her gifts, comforting her through a difficult pregnancy. How long had this been going on? Was the baby his? I made it to my car before the tears came. I sat in the driver's seat and sobbed, great heaving cries that hurt my chest. 8 years of marriage. 8 years of love and trust and partnership. All of it a lie. When I finally stopped crying, I looked at my phone. The video was there, clear and damning. I had the proof I needed. Now I just had to decide what to do with it. I drove home on autopilot. Marcus's car wasn't in the driveway yet. He was probably still at the hospital, playing the devoted partner to his pregnant mistress. I let myself into our house, the house I'd bought with my grandmother's money, and I looked around with new eyes. The leather couch Marcus had insisted we needed $4,000. The massive TV mounted on the wall, $2,500. The expensive espresso machine gathering dust in the kitchen, $1,200. How much of my money had gone to fund his comfortable life while he cheated on me? I went to my home office and pulled out our financial records. I was the one who managed our money. Marcus had never been interested in the details. I opened our joint checking account, our savings account, our investment accounts, and that's when I found the second betrayal. Over the past 6 months, Marcus had been transferring money from our savings account to a separate account I didn't know existed. Small amounts at first, $500 here, $1,000 there. But in the last month, the transfers had gotten bigger. $5,000, $8,000, $12,000. I added it up. He'd taken $47,000 from our savings without telling me. My hands shook as I dug deeper. I accessed our credit card statements, the card I'd given him for household expenses. There were charges I didn't recognize, jewelry purchases at stores I'd never been to, hotel rooms in our own city, expensive dinners at restaurants we'd never visited together, baby furniture, a $3,000 charge at a baby boutique 3 weeks ago. He was using my money to prepare for his new family. The rage that swept through me was cold and clear. This wasn't just an affair. This was theft. This was a calculated plan to take everything I'd worked for and use it to build a life with someone else. I heard his car pull into the driveway. I quickly closed all the windows on my computer and sat down on the couch, arranging my face into a neutral expression. Marcus came in, looking tired. His eyes were red, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. He was a good actor. "How's your mom?" I asked. "Same," he said, collapsing next to me. "The doctors are running more tests tomorrow. I'm just so exhausted." "I bet." I studied his face, looking for any sign of guilt. There was nothing. "You must be spending a lot of time there." "Every minute I can." He took my hand. "I keep thinking about how fragile life is, how we never know how much time we have with the people we love." The irony was almost funny. "We should talk about something," I said carefully. "I've been looking at our finances, and I noticed some unusual transfers. Do you know anything about that?" His face went still. "What transfers?" "From our savings account. About $47,000 over the past 6 months. "Oh." He cleared his throat. "Yeah, I meant to tell you about that. I've been putting money aside for an investment opportunity, a friend's real estate deal. It's going to be big." "Which friend?" "You don't know him. Guy I met at a networking event." "And you didn't think to discuss a $47,000 investment with me first?" "It's our money," he said defensively. "I didn't think I needed permission." "It's my grandmother's money," I corrected quietly, "that I shared with you because we're married, because I trusted you." "Are you saying it's not mine?" His voice had an edge now. "After 8 years of marriage, you're going to hold that money over my head?" "I'm saying that major financial decisions should be made together. That's how partnerships work." He stood up. "I'm too tired for this. My mother is dying, and you want to argue about money?" He went upstairs. A minute later, I heard the shower turn on. I sat there, marveling at his performance. The righteous indignation, the deflection, the way he'd turned it around to make me feel guilty. But I wasn't guilty, and I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. I pulled out my phone and made a call. "Diane?" I said when my lawyer friend answered. "I need your help. Can we meet tomorrow?" The next morning, I called in sick to work. Instead of going to the office, I went to Diane's law firm downtown. She'd been my roommate in college, and now she was a divorce attorney at one of the city's top family law practices. "Tell me everything," she said, closing her office door. I laid it all out. The fake dying mother, the pregnant mistress, the stolen money, the secret accounts. I showed her the video I'd recorded at the hospital. I showed her the bank statements. Diane's expression grew harder with each piece of evidence. "This is bad," she said finally, "but it's also good for you. Really good." "How is any of this good?" "Because you have documentation, because he's been stealing from marital assets to support an affair and prepare for a child with another woman. Because he lied about where the money was going." She leaned forward. "Sarah, with this evidence, we can nail him in divorce court. You'll get everything: the house, the savings, probably even part of his future earnings." "I want more than that," I said, surprised by the steel in my own voice. "I want him to face consequences, real consequences." Diane raised an eyebrow. "What did you have in mind?" "I want to know everything. How long this has been going on, if the baby is his, if there are other women, other lies. And then I want to expose him, not just to a judge, but to everyone. His family, his friends, the people who think he's such a great guy. That's more my speed." Diane grinned. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. First, we hire a private investigator to document everything, every visit to the hospital, every financial transaction, every lie. We build an airtight case. Second, you don't confront him yet. You act normal, keep gathering evidence. The more rope we give him, the more he'll hang himself." "How long?" 2 weeks, maybe 3. We need to establish a pattern, get clear documentation of his intentions." She pulled out a legal pad. "And we need to protect your assets. Can you move money without him noticing?" "I can open a separate account in just my name, transfer my salary there going forward." "Do it. Also, I want you to get copies of everything: tax returns, insurance policies, property deeds, credit card statements, everything. Store them somewhere he can't access." "What about the mistress? Simone?" Diane thought for a moment. "Do you know her last name?" "No, just that she's in room 512 at Mercy General." "I'll have our investigator find out. We need to know if she knows he's married. If she doesn't, that's leverage. If she does, that tells us something else." She paused. "Are you sure you want to do this? It's going to get ugly." I thought about Marcus holding Simone, kissing her, giving her jewelry bought with my money. I thought about him coming home and lying to my face, using his mother as cover for his betrayal. "I'm sure," I said. "Let's destroy him." If this story is making your blood boil like mine was, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, the revenge gets so much better. Your support means everything to this channel. For the next 2 weeks, I lived a double life. During the day, I was the devoted wife who believed her husband's lies. At night, while Marcus was supposedly at the hospital with his dying mother, I compiled evidence of his betrayal. The private investigator Diane hired was worth every penny. Within 3 days, she had Simone's full name, Simone Carver, along with her employment history, address, and social media profiles. She was 26 years old. She worked as a receptionist at Marcus's gym. That's where they'd met, 6 months ago, right around the time he'd gotten that membership. 6 months. He'd been cheating for half a year. The investigator followed Marcus every night. She documented him arriving at the hospital at 7 p.m. and leaving around midnight. She photographed him bringing gifts, food, flowers. She even got video of him holding an ultrasound photo, kissing it, his face glowing with happiness. He'd never looked at me like that. I spent those 2 weeks being the perfect wife. I made his favorite meals. I asked about his mother's condition with genuine-sounding concern. I even suggested flying down to Florida to check on things at her apartment, and Marcus quickly shut that down, saying his aunt was handling everything. Every lie he told, I documented. Every fake tear he shed, I noted. I was building a case not just for divorce court, but for the court of public opinion. Meanwhile, I was securing my assets. I opened a new bank account at a different bank and started depositing my paychecks there. I transferred important documents to a safe deposit box. I made copies of every password, every account number, every piece of financial information. I also did something else. I started reaching out to Marcus's family and friends on social media, casually mentioning that we should all get together soon. His college roommate, his cousin, his sister, Phoebe, who I'd always gotten along with. "We should do a family dinner," I messaged Phoebe. "It's been too long. Plus, Marcus has been so stressed with his mom being sick, I think he could use some support." "What's wrong with Aunt Joanna?" Phoebe replied immediately. "I just talked to her yesterday and she didn't mention anything." I sent her a screenshot of one of Marcus's texts. "Mom's numbers are worse today. Not sure she'll make it through the week." "This is from 3 days ago," I wrote. "Has she not told the family?" There was a long pause. Then, "Sarah." I literally FaceTimed with Aunt Joanna this morning. She was showing me her new garden. "She's fine." I let that sink in. Then, "Are you sure?" "Positive." "What's going on? Can we meet for coffee tomorrow?" "I think we need to talk." I met Phoebe the next afternoon at a quiet cafe across town. I showed her everything, the bank statements, the hospital videos, the private investigator's photos. Her face went through a range of emotions: shock, disgust, anger, and finally, grim determination. "My brother is an idiot," she said flatly, "and a liar, and apparently a thief." "Did you know about Simone?" "No. But..." She hesitated. "About 2 months ago, he asked me for money. Said he had an investment opportunity but needed cash fast. I lent him $10,000. My stomach dropped. "He told you it was for an investment?" "Yeah. He said he'd pay me back in 3 months. She looked at the photos again. "That was right when he bought all this baby furniture, wasn't it?" "Yes." "Son of a bitch. He used my money to set up a nursery for his mistress." We sat in silence for a moment. "What are you going to do?" Phoebe asked. "I'm going to divorce him. Take everything. But first, I want everyone to know what he did. I want his mother to know he used her as a cover story. I want his friends to know he's a liar and a thief. I want Simone to know he's married." "Wait, she doesn't know?" "According to the investigator, no. He told her he was divorced." Phoebe's eyes narrowed. "Then we need to tell her." "I'm planning to, but I want to do it right. I want maximum impact." "What did you have in mind?" I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot. It was from Simone's Instagram. She'd posted a photo of a baby onesie with the caption, "Can't wait to meet you, baby boy. Daddy is already so in love with you. Number blessed beyond measure. Number first-time mom. Number our miracle." The post was dated 2 days ago. "Her baby shower is this weekend," I said. "Saturday afternoon at her sister's house. It's on her Facebook events page." Phoebe's mouth fell open. "You're not..." "I am. I'm going to show up at her baby shower and tell her the truth, in front of all her friends and family." "Sarah, that's..." "Justified," I finished. "She's carrying my husband's baby, using my money to buy supplies, and posting about what a great father he is. She deserves to know who she's really dealing with." Phoebe stared at me for a long moment. Then she smiled, and it wasn't nice. "I'm coming with you." "You don't have to. He's my brother, and I love him, but what he's doing is unforgivable. He needs to face consequences. And honestly," she leaned forward, "I want to see the look on his face when his world falls apart." Saturday afternoon arrived bright and sunny, the kind of perfect spring day that makes you believe in fresh starts. How fitting. I dressed carefully, not too formal, not too casual. A simple navy dress, heels, minimal makeup. I wanted to look put together, not vindictive. I wanted to look like someone telling the truth, not causing a scene. Phoebe picked me up at 2 p.m. We drove to Simone's sister's house in a nice suburb about 20 minutes away. Cars lined the street, the baby shower was well attended. "Last chance to back out," Phoebe said as we parked. "Not a chance." We walked up to the house. Through the windows, I could see pink and blue decorations, balloons, people laughing. I felt a moment of hesitation. Was I really about to ruin this woman's baby shower? Then I thought about Marcus kissing her. Marcus stealing my money. Marcus lying to my face for 6 months. I rang the doorbell. A woman in her 30s answered, probably Simone's sister. "Hi, are you here for the shower?" "We are," I said with a friendly smile. "Is Simone here?" "Of course. Come in, come in." We entered the house. There were about 30 people there, mostly women, all clustered around a very pregnant Simone who sat in a chair decorated with ribbons. She was opening gifts, laughing, glowing with that pregnancy radiance people talk about. She looked happy. She looked innocent. She had no idea she was in love with a married man. I walked through the crowd, Phoebe behind me. A few people glanced our way, curious but not alarmed. I reached the gift table and set down the present. I'd brought a beautifully wrapped box containing something special. "Simone?" I said, loud enough to be heard over the chatter. She looked up, smiling politely at a stranger. "Yes? My name is Sarah Steele," I said clearly. "I think we need to talk." The room went quiet. Simone's smile faded. "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" "No. But you know my husband." I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo. Marcus and me on our wedding day, 8 years ago. Marcus Steele. "I believe you call him your boyfriend?" The color drained from Simone's face. "What?" Her sister stepped forward. "Who are you?" "I'm Marcus's wife," I repeated. "We've been married for 8 years. We live together in the house my grandmother's inheritance paid for. The house he told you he sold in his divorce, I assume?" Simone's hands went to her stomach protectively. No, he's divorced," he told me. He lied. I pulled up our joint bank account on my phone. "See this? Joint account, both our names, still active. We're still very much married." "This is insane," Simone's sister said. "You need to leave." "I'll leave in a minute." I looked at Simone, and despite everything, I felt a stab of sympathy. She looked destroyed. "But first, you should know a few things. That bracelet he gave you last week, paid for with our joint credit card. The nursery furniture, also our money. In fact, he's stolen $47,000 from our savings account in the last 6 months to spend on you and this baby." "Stop," Simone whispered. Tears were streaming down her face. "He told me his mother was dying," I continued, "that she'd had a stroke and was in the hospital. That's why he's been spending every evening with you," he told me. He was at his mother's bedside. "But his mother is fine. She's in Florida, healthy as can be. You can call her yourself if you don't believe me." I held out my phone with his mother's number on the screen. Simone stared at it like it was a snake. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice breaking. "I'm pregnant. You're going to stress me out, hurt my baby." "I'm not trying to hurt you," I said, and I meant it. "I'm trying to help you. Because if you think Marcus is going to be a faithful, honest partner to you, you're wrong. He's a liar. He's been lying to both of us. And you deserve to know before you tie yourself to him permanently. Get out." Simone's sister moved between us. "Get out of my house right now, or I'm calling the police." "I'm going." I walked to the gift table and picked up the box I'd brought. "But Simone should open this first." I handed it to her. With shaking hands, she tore off the wrapping paper and opened the box. Inside were documents: our marriage certificate, our joint tax returns, bank statements highlighting the transfers, credit card bills with charges for baby items and jewelry, and printed screenshots of Simone's Instagram posts with Marcus's comments. "Can't wait to meet our son. You're going to be an amazing mother. I love you both so much." At the bottom of the box was a copy of the divorce petition I'd be filing on Monday. "I'm sorry your baby shower was ruined," I said to Simone, "but I'm not sorry you know the truth. Good luck." I turned and walked out, Phoebe right behind me. Behind us, I heard Simone start to sob. We got in the car and drove in silence for several minutes. "That was brutal," Phoebe said finally. "Yes. Do you feel bad?" I thought about it. No. She needed to know, and now she does. "What about Marcus? When are you going to confront him?" I checked my phone. There were 7 missed calls from him. Apparently, Simone had wasted no time. "Right now," I said. "He's at home. Let's go." Marcus was pacing in the living room when I walked in. His face was red, his eyes wild. "What the hell did you do?" he shouted. "You went to Simone's baby shower? Are you insane?" "I'm not the one who's been lying for 6 months," I said calmly. "I'm not the one who faked his mother's illness to cover an affair. I'm not the one who stole $47,000 to support his pregnant mistress. That money was mine." It was my grandmother's inheritance that I shared with you. That's marital property, and you stole it. I was investing it in our future. I laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. Our future? You were buying baby furniture for the kid you're having with another woman. You were setting up a whole separate life. There is no our future, Marcus. That's over. He seemed to deflate. Sarah, please. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You cheated, you lied, you stole. And now you're going to face the consequences. It's not what you think, Simone, He ran his hands through his hair. It just happened. I didn't plan it. And I was going to tell you. When? After the baby was born? After you'd stolen all my money? After you'd set up your new life and were ready to discard me? I love you, he said desperately. I've always loved you. Simone was a mistake. Don't. I held up my hand. Don't insult me with that. You don't love someone and lie to them for 6 months. You don't love someone and steal from them. You don't love someone and build a whole secret life behind their back. What do you want me to say? I don't want you to say anything. I want you to leave. This is my house too. Actually, it's not. I paid for it. My name is on the deed. You're going to pack a bag and get out. Or I'm calling the police and showing them evidence of financial theft. His face went white. You wouldn't. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911, finger hovering over the call button. Try me. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he turned and went upstairs. 20 minutes later, he came down with a duffel bag. This isn't over, he said. You're right. It's not. Wait until you see what divorce court looks like. He slammed the door on his way out. I stood in the silence of the house, shaking. Then I called Diane. It's done, I said. He's gone. File the papers. Already prepared, she replied. I'll have them filed first thing Monday morning. Are you okay? I will be. After I hung up, I sat down on the couch, Marcus's expensive leather couch, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, confrontations, and revelations. Diane filed for divorce on grounds of adultery and financial misconduct. We requested a full forensic accounting of all marital assets and demanded the return of the $47,000 Marcus had transferred, plus penalties. Marcus hired a lawyer, a friend who agreed to work for cheap, since Marcus had no money of his own. His attorney tried to argue that the inheritance was marital property, and Marcus had every right to invest it however he saw fit. Investment in what? Diane asked during the first hearing. Baby furniture? Jewelry for his mistress? Hotel rooms for his affair? Those aren't investments. That's dissipation of marital assets for non-marital purposes. That's theft. The judge agreed. He ordered Marcus to account for every penny of the $47,000 and explain how it was spent. When Marcus's lawyer tried to produce falsified receipts claiming the money had gone to legitimate business expenses, Diane presented the private investigator's evidence. Your Honor, the defendant claims he invested $15,000 in a consulting contract. But on the same day that money was transferred, he purchased a $3,000 crib and matching dresser at Baby Paradise. He claims he spent $8,000 on marketing materials. But that same week, he bought a $2,500 diamond bracelet for Miss Carver. Every business expense he's claiming is actually a gift or purchase for his affair partner or their child. The judge was not pleased. He ordered Marcus to repay the full $47,000 within 90 days or face wage garnishment. He also awarded me sole possession of the house and all savings accounts. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I reached out to Marcus's mother in Florida. I called her and explained everything, the fake illness, the lies, the affair, the stolen money. Joanna was horrified. He told people I was dying, that I'd had a stroke, for 2 weeks straight. He used you as a cover story so he could visit his pregnant girlfriend every night. There was a long silence. Then, I'll be flying up there. That boy needs to look me in the eye and explain himself. She arrived 3 days later. I picked her up from the airport, and we went straight to the apartment where Marcus was staying, a friend's couch, since he couldn't afford rent. Joanna didn't knock. She barged in, found her son eating cereal in his boxers, and unleashed 8 years of maternal fury. You used my name? My supposed illness? To cover your affair? Mom, I can explain. Explain what? That you're a liar? That you're a cheater? That you stole from your wife? She was shaking with rage. I raised you better than this. Your father would be ashamed. Dad's been gone for 10 years, and I'm ashamed enough for both of us. She turned to me. Sarah, I'm so sorry. If I'd known what he was doing, I would have stopped it. It's not your fault, I assured her. She looked back at Marcus. You're going to make this right. You're going to pay Sarah back every penny. You're going to sign whatever papers she wants. And you're going to get yourself together, because right now, I don't even recognize the man you've become. She left. Marcus stood there, stunned. I followed her out, but not before saying one more thing to my soon-to-be ex-husband. By the way, Simone broke up with you. She called me yesterday. His face went pale. What? She said she can't trust you. That if you lied to me, you'll lie to her. She's going to raise the baby on her own. She's also suing you for emotional distress. She can't. She can. And she is. Good luck. I left him standing there and drove Joanna back to my house, the house Marcus would never set foot in again. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. I got everything. The house, the remaining savings, my retirement accounts, and $47,000 in restitution from Marcus to be paid via wage garnishment from whatever jobs he could find. Marcus got nothing except child support obligations once Simone's baby was born. The DNA test proved he was the father, and the court ordered him to pay 25% of his income once he had income. He tried to get a job in sales, his old field, but word had spread about the divorce, about the theft, about the lies. Nobody wanted to hire him. He ended up working at a warehouse for $15 an hour. His apartment was a studio in a bad part of town. His car was repossessed when he couldn't make payments. His friends stopped answering his calls. Meanwhile, my life got better every day. I got promoted at work, senior director of financial analysis, with a significant raise. I renovated the house, getting rid of all of Marcus's expensive toys and replacing them with things I actually wanted. I traveled to Europe with Phoebe, a trip I'd always dreamed of but Marcus had always vetoed. I started dating again, cautiously, carefully. But I met a kind, honest accountant named David who thought my scars from the divorce made me stronger, not damaged. Most importantly, I learned to trust myself again, to value myself, to know that I deserved better than a man who saw me as a meal ticket and a cover story for his real life. 6 months after the divorce, I got a message from Simone. It was brief. Thank you for telling me the truth. My son is beautiful and healthy. Marcus tried to visit when he was born, but I turned him away. I don't want my child around a liar. I'm sorry for any pain I caused you, even though I didn't know. You deserved better. We both did. I wrote back. Your son is lucky to have a mom who protects him. I wish you both all the best. And I meant it. Simone and I had both been victims of the same man's lies. The difference was, she got out before she wasted 8 years. A year after the divorce, I received an invitation in the mail. It was from Marcus's mother, Joanna. She was hosting a family reunion in Florida and wanted me to come. You'll always be family to me, she'd written on the card. Marcus's choices don't change that. I went. I spent a week in the Florida sunshine with people who'd been my family for 8 years. They welcomed me with open arms, and several of them apologized for Marcus's behavior. He was always the golden child, his uncle told me over dinner one night. We spoiled him, let him get away with too much. Maybe if we'd been harder on him, he wouldn't have turned out this way. It's not your fault, I said. We all make our own choices. On the last night of the reunion, Phoebe and I sat on the beach watching the sunset. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Going to that baby shower? Blowing up his life? I thought about it. No. He blew up his own life. I just made sure everyone could see the damage. Fair enough. She clinked her beer bottle against mine. To justice. To moving on, I corrected. 2 years after the divorce, I'm living my best life. I bought a second property as an investment. I'm in a serious relationship with David, who treats me like a partner, not a bank account. I've reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. And Marcus? Last I heard, he's still working at the warehouse, still paying child support, still living in that studio apartment. Simone won't let him see his son unsupervised, and he can barely afford the court-ordered visitation expenses anyway. His mother talks to him occasionally, but their relationship is strained. Phoebe refuses to speak to him until he pays back the $10,000 he stole from her. He's alone, broke, and living with the consequences of his choices. Some people might say I was too harsh, that I should have handled it privately, not exposed him publicly, that I should have given him a chance to explain, but those people don't understand. Marcus had hundreds of chances to be honest. He chose to lie every single time. He didn't just cheat, he stole from me, used his mother's name, and built an entire secret life while pretending to be my devoted husband. He didn't deserve privacy. He didn't deserve mercy. He deserved exactly what he got: exposure, consequences, and justice. And I deserved to move on with my life, free from his lies, free from his manipulation, free from the burden of being married to a man who saw me as nothing more than a convenient source of funding for his real life. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just free. And that's the best revenge of all. 3 years after the divorce, I received a phone call that I never expected. It was from a lawyer I didn't know, representing someone I'd never heard of. "Miss Steele, or should I say Miss Hartley," the lawyer began. I'd taken back my maiden name immediately after the divorce was finalized. "It's Miss Hartley," I corrected. "My apologies, Miss Hartley. My name is Robert Chen, and I represent a group of women who have filed a class action lawsuit against Marcus Steele. We'd like to speak with you about joining the case." I sat down slowly. "A class action lawsuit? For what?" "Financial fraud, identity theft, and emotional distress. It appears your ex-husband has been running the same scheme on multiple women over the past decade. You were wife number 3. The words hit me like a physical blow. "Wife number 3? I'm sorry, what did you just say?" "Marcus Steele was married twice before he married you. Both marriages ended in divorce after he drained the women's bank accounts. In your case, we believe you were the most financially successful target, which is why he stayed married to you longer than the others." I felt numb. "Tell me everything." Robert Chen explained that a private investigator hired by one of Marcus's other victims had uncovered a pattern spanning 12 years. Marcus's first marriage, when he was 23, lasted only 14 months. He'd married a woman named Keisha who worked as a pharmaceutical sales rep. She made good money, and within 6 months of the marriage, Marcus had convinced her to add him to her accounts, take out credit cards in both their names, and co-sign on a car loan. Then he'd had an affair with a woman at his gym. Sound familiar? And when Keisha discovered it, she filed for divorce. By that point, Marcus had accumulated $30,000 in credit card debt in her name and disappeared with another $15,000 from their joint account. "Keisha spent 2 years paying off debt he'd created," Robert said. "She tried to press charges, but he claimed it was marital spending and the police said it was a civil matter." His second marriage, to a woman named Tamara, lasted 3 years. Tamara was a dentist making $180,000 a year. Marcus convinced her to invest in his business ventures, which never materialized, and siphoned off nearly $90,000 before she caught him cheating with her dental hygienist. "And then came you," Robert said. "The inheritance made you his biggest score, but you were also the first one who fought back effectively." "How many women are we talking about total?" 8 that we've identified. 3 wives and 5 girlfriends who he defrauded before they got to the altar. The total amount stolen is close to $400,000. I felt sick. Why didn't anyone warn me? The first 2 wives didn't know about each other. Marcus moved to different cities between marriages. He reinvented himself each time, different friend groups, different stories. He was careful, but after your very public divorce and the baby shower incident, I detected a note of admiration in his voice. Women started coming forward. They'd seen the news coverage and realized they'd been victims of the same man. "What do you want from me?" "We want you to be the lead plaintiff. Your case is the most documented, you have the most evidence, and frankly, you're the most credible witness. You successfully sued him in divorce court. Now we want to take him down in criminal court." "I thought you said the police wouldn't do anything." "They wouldn't for 1 victim. But 8 victims showing a clear pattern of fraud? That's a different story. We've been working with the DA's office. They're interested, but they need a strong lead case. That's you. I thought about the past 3 years, about the peace I'd found, the life I'd rebuilt. Did I really want to drag myself back into Marcus's orbit, even to help other women? Then I thought about Keisha, about Tamra, about the 5 girlfriends who'd been smart enough not to marry him but still lost their money. I thought about how alone I'd felt during my divorce, how isolated. When do you need my answer? We're filing the lawsuit next month, but the DA wants to meet with you first. Would you be available this week? Yes, I said, surprising myself with how quickly I answered. I'll be there. The meeting with the district attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Okonkwo, took place in a downtown office that smelled like old coffee and determination. Robert Chen was there, along with 2 other women I recognized from the photos he'd sent over. Keisha was 38 now, a decade older than when she'd married Marcus. She had worry lines around her eyes that spoke of hard years. Tamara was 41, polished and professional in a way that reminded me of myself. Thank you all for coming, Patricia began. I'm going to be direct. What Marcus Steele did to each of you individually might be hard to prosecute. Marital property issues, he said, she said, about intent. But together you show a pattern of predatory behavior that constitutes criminal fraud. She pulled out a chart showing Marcus's timeline. It was disturbingly methodical. He targets financially successful women in their late 20s to early 30s. He positions himself as charming but struggling, someone who needs support. He gains access to their finances gradually, first a credit card for emergencies, then a joint account, then major purchases. He maintains the relationship just long enough to extract maximum assets, typically until he's identified and groomed his next target. Then he manufactures a crisis or conflict that justifies the separation, taking what he can and leaving the woman with debt and ruined credit. He's a con artist, Keisha said quietly. We were marks. Yes, Patricia agreed, and con artists go to prison. But I need your help to make sure he does. Over the next 2 hours, we shared our stories. The similarities were chilling. Marcus had used almost the exact same lines on all of us, the same sob stories about his difficult childhood, the same promises about future success. Even the fake dying mother routine, he'd used it with Tamra too. Except in her case, he'd claimed his mother had cancer. He told me his mother had 6 months to live, Tamara said, shaking her head. I gave him $20,000 for experimental treatments. He said insurance wouldn't cover it. I found out later his mother was perfectly healthy and had never had cancer at all. He told me his mother needed a liver transplant. One of the girlfriends, Imani, added. I gave him $8,000 to help with medical bills. Same story. Mother was fine, never sick. As we talked, a picture emerged of a man who had perfected his con over years of practice. He'd learned what worked and what didn't. He'd refined his approach with each victim. By the time he got to me, he was an expert. The baby with Simone, Patricia said. That was his exit strategy with you. He was planning to leave you for her, take as much money as he could, and start fresh. But you caught him before he could execute the full plan. What happened to Simone? Keisha asked. And the baby? She's not part of this case, Patricia said. She was a victim too, in a different way. But she's cooperating with our investigation. I spoke up. Last I heard, she was doing well. She kept the baby away from Marcus, raised him on her own. Her family helped. Good for her, Tamra said. At least one person escaped without being completely destroyed. After the meeting, the 3 of us, me, Keisha, and Tamara, went for coffee. There was something surreal about sitting across from the women who'd been married to my ex-husband before me. I should hate you, Keisha said, stirring sugar into her coffee. When I found out he'd remarried, that he'd found someone new while I was still paying off his debt, I wanted to track you down and warn you. But I was also relieved it wasn't my problem anymore. I don't blame you, I said. I probably wouldn't have listened anyway. I thought I was different. I thought he really loved me. That's what makes him good at what he does, Tamara said. He makes you feel special, like you're the one who finally understands him, who sees his potential. It's intoxicating, until it's not, Keisha finished. We sat in silence for a moment, 3 women united by the same terrible experience. Can I ask you something? I looked at Keisha. After you divorced him, Did you ever see him again? Once? About 6 months after the divorce was final. He showed up at my apartment, crying, saying he'd made a terrible mistake and wanted me back. Said the other woman meant nothing, that I was his real love. She laughed bitterly. I slammed the door in his face. A week later, I found out he'd gotten engaged to Tamara. Tamara nodded. He told me you were crazy, that you'd been obsessed with him and he'd had to get a restraining order. I believed him. God, I was so stupid. You weren't stupid, I said firmly. None of us were. He's a professional liar. That's not on us. Did he try to come back to you? Keisha asked me. No. I think the baby shower incident scared him off, and his mother cut him off financially after that, which he probably blamed me for. Good, Tamara said viciously. I hope he's miserable. From what I hear, he is, I said. The warehouse job, the studio apartment, the child support he can barely afford. His life is exactly what he deserves. It's not enough, Keisha said. He should be in prison. He will be, I promised. That's why we're doing this. The lawsuit moved forward with surprising speed. Patricia Okonkwo was relentless, building a case that was airtight. She brought in forensic accountants who traced every dollar Marcus had stolen. She interviewed dozens of witnesses, friends, family members, co-workers who'd seen his patterns of behavior. She even found the girlfriend Marcus had cheated with during his first marriage. The woman, now married with kids, was horrified to learn she'd been part of a long con. He told me he was single, she testified in a deposition. Said he'd just gotten out of a long-term relationship and was ready for something new. I had no idea he was married. When his wife confronted me, he told me she was lying, trying to trap him. I believed him for weeks before I finally realized he was the liar. Marcus's pattern was always the same. Identify a target, isolate her from friends and family, gain financial control, cheat openly once he'd secured the next target, and exit with maximum profit. He was a parasite in human form. The criminal charges were filed 6 months after my first meeting with Patricia. Marcus Steele was arrested at his warehouse job and charged with 8 counts of fraud, 5 counts of identity theft, and 15 counts of grand larceny. The bail was set at $100,000, money he didn't have. He called his mother, who refused to help. He called Phoebe, who hung up on him. He called several friends, all of whom declined. He sat in county jail for 3 weeks before a bail bondsman agreed to post bond in exchange for the title to his car, which, as it turned out, was in Simone's name. She refused to sign it over. Marcus stayed in jail. The trial began on a cold November morning. The courtroom was packed with press, curious onlookers, and most importantly, victims. All 8 of us were there, a united front of women who'd been devastated by the same man. Marcus looked terrible. He'd lost weight in jail, and his skin had a grayish tint. He wore an ill-fitting suit that someone had donated to him. His hair, once carefully styled, was cut short and uneven. He looked like what he was, a broken man facing justice. His public defender, overworked and underpaid, tried to argue that the relationships were consensual, that the money was given willingly, that Marcus hadn't technically stolen anything. Patricia demolished that argument in her opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you're going to hear a lot about love in this trial, about relationships, about trust. But what you're really going to hear about is a calculated, methodical pattern of predatory behavior spanning 12 years. The defendant didn't fall in love 8 times. He didn't make 8 mistakes. He executed the same con 8 times, refining his technique with each victim, stealing nearly $400,000 from women who trusted him. She presented the timeline, showing how Marcus had overlapped relationships, moving from one woman to the next with barely a gap. She showed the financial records, proving that he'd contributed virtually nothing to any of the relationships while extracting maximum resources. She brought in expert witnesses who testified about patterns of financial abuse and coercive control. And then she brought in the victims. Keisha testified first, her voice shaking as she described the $30,000 in debt Marcus had left her with. I worked 2 jobs for 3 years to pay it off. I had to file for bankruptcy. My credit was destroyed. I couldn't get an apartment, couldn't get a car loan. He took everything and left me to clean up the mess. Tamara described how Marcus had used her professional credentials to take out loans in her name. He said he needed capital to start a business. He forged my signature on loan applications. I didn't know about them until collection agencies started calling me. By then, he was gone. Each girlfriend told similar stories of money loaned and never repaid, credit cards maxed out, savings accounts emptied. When it was my turn to testify, I walked to the stand with my head high. I looked directly at Marcus as I was sworn in. He couldn't meet my eyes. "Miss Hartley," Patricia began, "can you describe your relationship with the defendant?" "We were married for 8 years. During that time, I supported him financially while he claimed to be building a consulting business that never materialized. He had access to my inheritance from my grandmother, $850,000, and over the course of our marriage, he squandered or stole approximately $300,000 of those funds. Did you give him permission to spend that money?" "I gave him permission to access our joint accounts for household expenses and legitimate investments. I did not give him permission to steal $47,000 to support his pregnant mistress, buy baby furniture, and fund a secret life." "How did you discover what he was doing?" I told the story: the fake dying mother, following him to the hospital, finding Simone, uncovering the financial theft. The jury listened, rapt. "And when you confronted him, what did he say?" "He said the money was his to spend however he wanted. He showed no remorse, no acknowledgement that what he'd done was wrong. He only cared that he'd been caught." "Thank you, Miss Hartley." Marcus's lawyer tried to cross-examine me, suggesting I was a scorned woman seeking revenge. I remained calm. "This isn't about revenge," I said. "This is about justice. Not just for me, but for all the women he's victimized. He's a con artist who targets vulnerable women and destroys their financial lives. He needs to be stopped." The trial lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They found Marcus Steele guilty on all counts. At sentencing, Patricia requested the maximum penalty. "Your Honor, the defendant has shown a pattern of behavior spanning over a decade. He has expressed no remorse, taken no responsibility. He is a danger to any woman who crosses his path. The court must send a message that this kind of predatory behavior will not be tolerated." Marcus's lawyer argued for leniency, claiming his client had mental health issues and deserved treatment, not punishment. The judge, an older woman who'd listened to every minute of testimony, was unmoved. "Mr. Steele, I've sat on this bench for 20 years. I've seen a lot of criminals, a lot of excuses, a lot of sad stories, but rarely have I seen such calculated cruelty. You didn't just steal money, you stole years of these women's lives. You stole their trust, their security, their belief in love. Some of them are still recovering financially. All of them will carry the emotional scars of what you did forever." She sentenced him to 15 years in state prison, with possibility of parole after 10. She also ordered full restitution to all victims, nearly $400,000 plus interest and penalties. "You will pay back every penny you stole," the judge said. "If it takes the rest of your life, you will make these women whole." Marcus stood there, his face blank. As bailiffs led him away in handcuffs, I watched him go and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, no sadness, just emptiness where he used to be. Outside the courthouse, the 8 of us gathered on the steps. Press cameras flashed, but we didn't care. We held hands, a chain of survivors, and faced the cameras together. "We want other women to know," Keisha said into the microphones. "If something feels wrong in your relationship, if your partner is secretive about money, if they're isolating you from friends and family, trust your instincts. Get out before it's too late. And if you've already been victimized," Tamara added, "know that you're not alone. There's no shame in being conned by a professional liar. The shame is his, not yours." When they turned to me, I thought carefully about what I wanted to say. I spent years blaming myself for not seeing the signs sooner, but I'm done with that. Marcus made his choices. He chose to lie, to steal, to hurt people. Those were his decisions, and now he's facing the consequences. I'm just grateful that no more women will fall victim to him. That night, The 8 of us had dinner together at an upscale restaurant downtown, the kind of place Marcus always claimed we couldn't afford, even when he was spending my money on his mistresses. We ordered expensive wine and the best steaks on the menu. We laughed and told stories and shared contact information. "We should stay in touch," Imani said. "Not because of him, but because of us. We survived something terrible, and that makes us family." Everyone agreed. We formed a group chat, made plans to meet annually, promised to support each other. That night, lying in bed next to David, who'd sat through every day of the trial to support me, I finally felt the weight lift completely. "It's really over," I said. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Free, vindicated, relieved." I thought about it, and grateful. Grateful that I got out when I did, that I fought back, that I helped make sure he couldn't hurt anyone else. I turned to face him. Some people stay trapped in bad situations forever. I was only trapped for 8 years. That's not nothing, but it could have been worse. "You're remarkable," David said. "You know that. I'm just someone who refused to stay a victim." A year after Marcus's sentencing, I got a letter from prison. It was from him, 6 pages of small handwriting. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity won. The letter was a masterpiece of manipulation. He apologized, sort of. He said he'd been dealing with demons and addictions that made him act in ways he regretted. He said prison had given him time to reflect, and he'd realized how much he'd hurt me. He said I was the only woman he'd ever truly loved, and losing me was his greatest regret. He asked if I would visit him. He said he needed closure, needed to apologize in person, needed to make amends. At the bottom, he'd written, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm hoping you'll find it in your heart to give me a chance to earn it. You were always the best thing that ever happened to me. Love, Marcus." I read the letter twice, noting all the subtle manipulation tactics, the way he minimized his actions by calling them mistakes rather than choices, the way he centered himself and his needs, even in an apology, the way he tried to make me feel special by claiming I was different from the others. He was still running the same con, even from behind bars. I wrote back. My letter was 1 sentence long. "The best revenge is living well. I'm doing exactly that. Please don't contact me again." I sent it and blocked his prisoner ID from my approved correspondence list. 2 years later, I married David in a small ceremony surrounded by people who actually loved me. Phoebe was my maid of honor. Joanna came and cried happy tears. Even Keisha and Tamara were there, friends I'd made through trauma, but kept through genuine connection. Marcus sent a letter to the prison chaplain, asking him to forward a message to me. The chaplain respected my wishes and declined. 5 years after the trial, I got news that Marcus had applied for early parole. All 8 victims submitted statements opposing it. The parole board denied his request. He'll be eligible again in 5 more years. We'll oppose it again. 7 years after my divorce, I have a life Marcus could never have given me. David and I own 2 properties. I've been promoted to VP of my company. We travel regularly. We're trying to have a baby, something Marcus always claimed he wanted but never seriously pursued. I think about Marcus rarely now. When I do, it's with a kind of distant pity. He chose a life of lies and shortcuts, and he's paying the price. He's middle-aged now, in prison, with nothing to show for his years of scheming except debt, disgrace, and the hatred of everyone who ever cared about him. Meanwhile, I'm thriving. The other victims are doing well too. Keisha went back to school and became a therapist, specializing in financial abuse. Tamara started a nonprofit that provides legal services to women escaping financially coercive relationships. The 5 girlfriends have all moved on, married or in healthy relationships, with their finances rebuilt. We text regularly in our group chat. We celebrate each other's victories. We support each other through challenges. We've built something beautiful out of our shared trauma. Last month, Simone reached out to me for the first time in years. Her son, Marcus's son, was asking questions about his father. She wanted to know what to tell him. I met her for coffee. The boy, now 7 years old, was in school. We talked for 2 hours. "Tell him the truth," I advised, in age-appropriate terms, that his father made bad choices that hurt a lot of people, that you're protecting him by keeping distance, that he's loved and safe with you. Will he hate me? Simone asked, tears in her eyes. For keeping him from his father? He might be angry when he's older, but eventually he'll understand, and he'll be grateful you protected him from someone who would have hurt him too. Marcus sends letters, she admitted. From prison, asking to see pictures, asking about his son. I never respond. Good. He doesn't deserve access to that boy. He'd only hurt him. Simone nodded. I'm sorry, for my part in everything. I didn't know he was married, but I should have asked more questions. I should have been smarter. You were in love. Love makes us all a little blind sometimes. I smiled at her. What matters is that you got out and built a good life for your son. That's all any of us can do. Looking back now, I see my marriage to Marcus as a painful but necessary chapter of my life. It taught me to value myself, to trust my instincts, to fight for what's mine. It showed me who my real friends were. It made me stronger than I ever thought possible. Would I change it if I could? Go back and avoid him entirely? Sometimes I think I would. Other times, I realize that experience made me who I am today. It brought Keisha and Tamara and the others into my life. It taught me lessons I needed to learn. Marcus stole 8 years of my life, but I've had 10 years since then that have been better than anything I experienced with him, and I'll have decades more. He's still in prison, still paying for what he did, still alone with his choices. And I'm here, free, loved, successful, happy. In the end, that's the real victory. Not the divorce settlement, or the criminal conviction, or the public humiliation, though those things mattered too. The real victory is that I survived him. I recovered. I thrived. Marcus wanted to destroy me and take everything I had. Instead, he destroyed himself and left me stronger than ever. That's justice. That's vindication. That's closure. And that's my story from betrayal to triumph, from victim to victor, from married to a con artist to free and thriving. Some people say revenge is living well. I say revenge is watching your abuser face consequences while you live well. I got both, and I wouldn't change a thing. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story gave you the justice you needed to see, check out the other videos on screen. They're just as satisfying. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? See you in the next story.